Met my wife 15 years ago. Stunner, but a lifelong veggie. And all this time I've been pretending to be one too. On business trips, I eat my body weight in sausages and steaks.
Staying at a Best Western supports a local independent business. So, what's that you've done? Booking Good makes up for it.
Welcome back to Box 2, myself, Jamie Jones-Buchanan, for this episode number 30 in partnership with Best Western Hotels GB. I would like you to remember that you can find the very cheapest of prices while supporting independent hotels by booking direct with them online at bestwestern.co.uk. Now, this time in Box 2, I'm delighted to be joined by an old friend, somebody who I've missed a great deal, somebody who I think's more than a legend, maybe even an icon, is of course Danny McGuire. Magsy, I'm not going to read out the list of accolades that you've got. Hopefully we'll touch on one or two here this afternoon, but I did want to read a number out to you. 247, that's how many tries. Record holder in Super League at the time of recording, but you've got one of our former teammates, Ryan Hall, hot on your tail. And I want you to look directly down that camera there and tell everybody, if and when Hawley surpasses it, that you're not going to cry live on television. How are you feeling?
Shall I give you the real answer or what I'm really feeling? Yeah, I'm good, mate. Good. Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to come and chat with you, mate. We don't get together enough, do we? So It's nice to come and chat. And yeah, do you know what? It's interesting. Like, I think individual accolades. You know, while I was playing, the try scoring stuff and the individual accolades that you get along the way, just sort of, they lack a little bit of importance to me. But I think when you finish and people speak to you and you're doing different things, they become more important. Yeah. And obviously I've had it for a fair bit. I think got it off Keith in, Phil might be able to tell us, 2008ish, something like that. So I've had it a fair while, and I think records are always there to be broken out there. They're always there for somebody to shoot at and take over, and it's inevitable at some point we're going to get beat. And if I'm honest, deep down, I'll be devastated. I'll be devastated because I won't be able to walk in a room and get that accolade anymore. But if All is a good lad. He's one of my best pals, and he's a winger, so he should score more tries as well. So I think if we could add assists in there, I'll be well in front. So
yeah,
if I'm maybe thinking with Phil, we can have tries and assists and see how many he's behind me as well. So, but yeah, I'll be pleased for him, but there'll be an element of disappointment when I do eventually lose it.
I think there is context in there. So you've got Paul Wellens 199, Keith Senior 199. I think Charlie's about 233, mid 30s. Ollie mid 240s. Mate, as a 6, 247. I mean, it is remarkable. Even the top three there, that far in front of 4th and 5th. And listen, I aren't degrading by any means some of the tries that Ryan Hall scored, because we've benefited no end, historically, legacy, because of what Ryan Hall has produced. But as a 6th, I wanted to ask you about this for some young kids out there who might be standoffs, about how remarkable it is to score that many tries when you're not essentially just, in some cases, catching and putting the ball down. You've got to find the tries. Yeah. But if I was going to go back and ask you what would be the most notable try, if there's one that really stands out in memory for you, which one would it be?
Good question. Got a fair few to choose from, haven't I? But I think there's a couple really. There's a couple that probably top the list for me. The one at Ellen Road against Canterbury in the World Club Challenge. I think Barry Mack claims an assist for an offload, but I think we had about 50 metres to go to score it. So I think there's a lot of reasoning behind why that's one of my favourites. Playing at Ellen Road, obviously, Leeds United fans like we are, Jonesy, and just being able to win like a World Club Challenge, something that the club hadn't been able to do before, and the prestige that honour gave everybody, gave all the players in the club, and what we were able to do on the back of that. And then probably, this is another one tough to say because I'm actually working at the club that I scored against, and it'll probably be my last try in the grand final against Cass in 17. Right. I think just probably them last two tries, just for what they meant. I knew it were going to be my last game for Leeds, biggest stage, and to be able to play and obviously get the win for everybody and have a decent impact on the game. I'd probably say them moments are definitely top of the list.
The Ellen Road game, unbelievable. I managed to get a try myself in that, I think. It was El Masri. They passed it in goal, didn't they? Made a mess of it and got on there Ryan Hall, just going back to him really quick, don't know if you was to ask him what his favourite try is, it's got to be the one that you put on a plate for him. Only Danny McGuire could come up with the Danny McGuire play that you came up with 2015, Huddersfield there last minute. If you don't score that, maybe don't win the treble. Just take us back to that moment and the intuition. You're talking about try assist, that must have been one of your highlights as well.
I think as a moment, that like period of 3 minutes of joy is probably the best I've ever experienced. Like the celebrations and what it kind of meant. And you know, I know the League Leaders Shield probably don't carry as much weight as the Challenge Cup and the Grand Final, but the journey that we were on at that point, it were big, wasn't it? It was big, and I remember Kev kicked the goal to draw the game, and I think a lot, you know, I think most people in the ground probably thought it was going to be a draw, but I thought, you know what, let's have a crack here. And I remember just seeing it. I just thought, you know what, a little chip here. They never normally work. You know, the odd one. You know, you might get 1 out of 50 that comes off a chip and kind of chase. And normally I'd kind of do it for myself, but yeah, I just thought, why not? Why not? You know, I'd back us to defend them next couple of plays anyway. So I thought, you know, risk reward. I thought it was worth a dabble. And you know, I'm not sure. He's coaching here now, Grixie. I'm not sure he likes to. He'd like to see the moment again too much, but yeah, it'll go down in folklore as one of the sort of the best moments of Super League, and you know, definitely for me, you know, it's definitely one of my highlights for emotion and joy and satisfaction and everything that came with it. It were pretty special.
I remember just had my quad reattached, my operation there, and nearly tore it straight back off, chasing all in that leg. Go on! But I wanted to ask you, Magsy, that intuition that you always had, if you replayed a highlights reel, it wouldn't look too formulaic. I think there's a lot of variation in that variation of skill and ability. And you had this knack, almost like this sixth sense, to be able to read a game and push up in support as and when the opportunities come. You're very quick as well. But what was it about your ability to read what was in front of you and just get on front foot?
I think it's a tough one to really nail down. It's probably a combination of a few things. I think I had instinct. Like I had natural instinct. You know, at most sports, I kind of knew where to put myself, and I knew where the player was going to be, whether I was playing football, rugby, cricket. The ball always used to find me, and I don't know if a lot of it, you know, some of it's luck at times as well. You need a little bit of luck, but a little bit of persistence as well. You know, like we had a team that players would make breaks and create opportunities, and you know, I might push and support 4 or 5 times and nobody sees that, but then on the 6th time, 5th, 6th time, that's when you get your reward. So there's an element of persistence and keep doing it. You've got to keep doing it. If you turn up once and think you're going to get rewarded, you know, it doesn't work like that. You know, you've got to have, you've got to have a bit of effort. You've got to keep doing it, and then the rewards kind of come. And don't get me wrong, we had a great team, didn't we? We had some players that could do amazing things, and everybody had their own little sort of special traits, and it's learning who you're playing with and what they can do, and how that could best influence my game as well. So I was always thinking and striving, and ultimately I wanted to win. So
Amen.
If I put myself in the picture as much as possible, we had more chance of winning.
I think that's a great metaphor for life. I think one thing that I've understood, even post-playing, it's not the quickest, fastest, strongest, most intelligent that seem to be successful. It's ones that just keep turning up, find themselves in the right moment. So let's talk a little bit about, and we will touch on your career, because while we're on that subject, how you do that when you're coaching now, so impress upon that wisdom, that education to people who you see that ability in. And let's just go through a few players. People like Jack Wellesby, people like Bevan French, Mikey Lewis, who I want to touch on in a minute, and George Williams. Now, Wellesby and Williams have got traits that they're very good at repeating. If you saw the highlights reel, very good at certain 3 or 4 things, exceptional. See Mikey Lewis and Bevan French, every single clip is something a little bit different, a little bit like yourself. So Mikey Lewis is somebody that you've worked with, just been chatting a few minutes ago about him being a young kid. How do you help develop and see that intuition in somebody who's naturally gifted like that?
Yeah, good question. I think encouragement. I think it's quite easy to see a player with them natural abilities. I'm talking like about stuff that you can't coach.
Yeah.
You know, the instinct stuff that we were speaking about before. It's like not honing that in, letting them grow and thrive in that department, but then also trying to attach some structure, some understanding alongside that. You know, I think rugby league's balance, life's about balancing it, and I think you can't all be, I'm just going to turn up and score amazing tries. You need to have an understanding that might happen, you know, might get 1 or 2 opportunities in a game, but you might have been building for 10 or 15 minutes to get these 1 or 2 opportunities. So I feel as a coach, I always try and encourage my players to express themselves. You know, I want them to go play and take opportunities and see things, and I'd never not coach that, because I think, you know, sometimes in our game we can be a little bit too get to this point for that, and you kind of lose the Mavericks, the Lee Breers and that type of players, and the Mikey Lewises of now. But with the understanding that if it don't come off, then you've got to work hard and defend and help your teammates get it back. So, and there's some great players in this competition. I love watching Bevan French, Jay Field, Lockie Miller. I enjoy watching him now at Leeds, and there's some really players that do stuff that you kind of can't coach as a coach. You just got to let them flourish and let them try things, and but understanding that without the rest of the team around them, you ain't going to get our game's too tough for it to be about any one individual. It's always going to be about the team and the work ethic and being prepared to do some selfless acts for your mates alongside you as well.
So you talked about the self, you and your own self-development, the people that you can impress that upon. I always talk about some players that you learn from as well. And, you know, Keith Senior's on that list of top try scorers. You know, you played and defended with him. Played with some exceptional players, you know, and I reflect on that team. Who are maybe some of those where you look at the symbiotic relationship you had the most benefit with?
I think I had a good appreciation of all my teammates, to be honest with you. I understood, you know, if somebody like Keith, I knew if I followed Keith around, if I give him the ball in space, they were going to get his arm free, and I were going to be able to benefit off the back of some of the stuff that Keith could do that some other people just, you know, Ali Lawatiti, when he came across, give Ali the ball, follow him, he's got a left-hand offload. You know, some of the stuff is quite easy to, you know, people will be saying, yeah, we know Ali, you know, we know they can do that, but actually putting yourself in the position to get there and benefit from it is different. But and I'm not just because I'm talking to you, but I speak a lot about you, Brett Delaney, Carl Ablett, Ian Kirk, players that without the graft, without the toughness, without the work ethic, without putting your head where it hurts, you know, some of the flashier players don't get the opportunity. So I kind of understood, and I feel like we used to argue like cat and dog, didn't we? But because we wanted to win and we were competing, but I felt like I appreciated what you did. I might not have told you enough, but I felt like I appreciated what you brought to the team for me to be able to do what I were good at, I suppose.
Class. And you were, mate, always. The reason why I can remember 247 is because of 147, the snooker break, and it won't surprise me if you've got one of them. So you used to play a bit of snooker as well, didn't you?
Got a few 50s and 60s, but never a 147.
But some of those arguments that you talk about, there's two that made me laugh. I thought it was quite poignant. One of them being at OKR. Yeah. Really quick, Jamie Peacock had monopolised all carries. He promised to give me next carry. I went for it and he gave it back to JP. So me and Magsy wrestled for about a set while our teammates went and defended without us. And then the Challenge Cup final that we played against Warrington. I think when was that? About 11
or 12.
And I passed the ball around my back. It was a great ball, mate. Mag straight to Ryan Hall. And then Ryan Hall got put in touch by Ben Westwood, and I could see you on the other side of the pitch, started off this big, and he got bigger and bigger until he said, George, we'll leave it there. But I love that competition. 2004, 20 years ago now, you were nearly top try scorer, and there was that competition yourself, and he just nabbed it. Yeah. Les Vinacolo, Bradford Bulls were exceptional. Beat us in the semi out here. We obviously went on and did the job in the grand final. But what do you remember about that year, which was just amazing, in your performances in particular?
Just special. Just 20 years ago, that's crazy. When you talk about, it makes you feel old. But yeah, I really enjoyed that year, and I think I remember when Tony came in, obviously in 3, Pauli had been coach, and we had a good team. We got to the Challenge Cup final, like a minute away from getting to the grand final in 2003. Yeah. And I think we just needed, you know, I think Pauli was in the early stages of his coaching career. Like a lot of us were as players, we were all young, impressionable, and we probably needed a bit more guidance and challenging a little bit. And obviously Tony came in, and I think it was just a great fit for both. I don't know whether it was a stroke, a genius by Gary, or he got lucky, but I think we just ate off every word that Tony said. He asked us to, you know, he'd ask us to do anything, and like I said before, we were young, hungry, impressionable. We'd go out there and try our best to do it. And you know, we had some good season players in there. We had, you know, Barry Mack, we had Keith, Dave Ferner, Gary Connolly. So we just had a really good blend of experience, but then that youthful hunger, desire to get things done. And I love that year. Well, I absolutely, you know, I remember, you know, some of the best moments are playing in that team, and we just played, didn't we? We didn't, you know, there's an element in the game of structure and shape and all that type of stuff, but I think back and I'm thinking, I can't really remember training shape too much. I remember playing like we played games, we did skill, we offloaded, we supported each other. And I always have to reference back to that because I think it's still relevant now, but you need to get a balance between structure and shape, but that still exists, that type of play still exists. And you know, I think the team that can replicate both sides probably more than likely get the job done. So, but just enjoyable, wasn't it? Good year. We were allowed to express ourselves, trained hard. You know, I remember we'd do core skills. I remember in pre-season we'd do core skills for hours. Remember, we'd just do passes, dummy half passes. And I think sometimes we'd think, we've done this Monday, Tuesday, why are we doing it again on Wednesday? And it'd be just like, but I think that just I felt that gave me a base for the rest of my career. That pre-season and that year in 2004 that we had almost were like my foundation. So we put that many hours in of practice. It were our foundation and our environment that we were able to build off for obviously the next 14 years or whatever it was.
Mate, there's a science in there. I don't want to get too scientific here. I think it's called basal ganglia, the piece of your brain where muscle memory sticks. We talk about muscle memory. I always remember bleep test turns.
Yeah.
Tony Smith used to say, when you get back on site, it's like a bleep test turn. And that was still with me when I retired. I remember one, if you remember, Magsy, we used to play touch and pass at training. And instead of being tackled to the floor, you get touched, then you jump on the floor, get up and play it. And I remember a game that you got tackled, but they didn't put you at deck.
Yeah.
And you jumped on the floor, got back up and played it. I don't even think you knew you did it at the time. Watched it back on video going, Magsy, what you're doing? But it's a really important point you mentioned there. Because I want to go back to here, because when we think about when we're having the most fun playing any games, usually, it is off the cuff, because we're there to smile, enjoy ourselves. Yeah. But take me back to when you've got a young Danny McGuire here, just playing rugby league with his mates at East Leeds back in 1990. What made you pick up a rugby ball in the first place?
Good question. I was the first sort of from my family to go rugby league. My dad played football and cricket. Yeah. So we weren't really a rugby league family. I watched Leeds. I watched Gary Schofield with my hero, and now I'm mates with him. So that's good. So I remember watching him, and I lived literally smack bang in between the cricket and the rugby. So it was like just what you did. It's just what you did as a kid. You went to the rugby club, and I played cricket in the summer, and I was sport mad. I was active, and I liked to compete, and so it was just natural for me to kind of do that. And I think I joined when I was 6, and I remember my first year. It's weird how things stick with you, and they put me on wing. I didn't touch the ball all year. Really? Literally. It wasn't like the play now where everybody gets in and has a run. It was like 13 aside, and obviously smallest, not so good kid normally ends up out wide. They try and keep him out of the way. And I remember I played a full season. I think I might have made about 3 tackles, but never touched the ball all season. Normally now, I don't think kids would see a season out, they'd get bored or they'd be wanting to play on the PlayStation, but I loved it. And then I remember going back, we had a coach called Les Barrett from East Leeds, and I remember going back and standing on the wing the next, just assuming that's where I'd be, but I'm obviously a year older. And he's like, get your head in middle, son. And I remember looking at him, I can see it vividly still today, thinking, really? I'm quite happy out there, you know what I mean? I'm quite happy chilling on wing, but that were it. That were the kind of making of me. Then I got my hands on the ball and found out, you know, I had a little bit of ability, and that was it really. And like you say, I think as a kid, obviously my son's playing now, Louis playing at Kipax, and love going to watch him play and love watching some of the young kids playing. And I think sometimes, like coaches, amateur coaches, can either try to teach them wedges and drop-offs a little bit too soon, and I'm thinking just let them go and play and see the space and let them express themselves. And you shouldn't be, in my opinion, I don't know, everyone's different, but I won't be teaching them moves until they're 14, 15. There's no need for it. Let them go play, let them go see. They can have an element of structure in there, but just let them go enjoy themselves.
Absolutely, mate. Totally. Listen, I've got 4 boys, and I'll be honest with you, I've not watched them much in terms of training. And I'll take my hat off to anybody who'll give up the time to coach our young people out there. But you're right, mate, you've got to let them play. I think we typically watch and see what we see on television and go and try and replicate that. But when kids have got balls in their hand, that's when they're having the most fun. I imagine, Magsy, at some point you got to a period of your youthful progression where you thought, there's a chance here. I might end up stepping in the footsteps of Gary Schofield and maybe putting on a Lioness shirt as we'd done them back then. When was it that you maybe started dreaming about playing on the hallowed turf at Headingley?
I remember we were playing for Leeds in districts. I think that's the
academy.
And that might be like Leeds schools, that picture, I'm not sure. Oh, that's Leeds schools.
Leeds schools.
So there's a fair few there, and I remember Bob Pickles coming to watch, and I think at the time I didn't really think too much about it. I was playing for like Leeds and Yorkshire, but not sure I thought too much about having a career as a rugby league player. And I remember Bob got in touch with Mum and Dad and asked us to come to the Boxing Day game. They were playing Cass on Boxing Day. Came along, and actually Leon Price and his family were there as well. They were trying to sign Leon Price at the same time. And we had a meal, watched the game, and invited me back 2 weeks later, and there's a 6-year contract there. Wow. Which is like mental now for kids at 12-year-old. It were, but yeah, I love Leeds. I'm a big Leeds United fan. I loved everything to do with Leeds. I thought, why not? But I don't think at that time, even at that point, even after I'd signed that contract, I still think I was probably young and probably not understanding of the sort of situation. But I do remember a few times going to, like, I say this a fair bit, going to careers advice. He used to say, look, what do you want to do when you finish? Do you want to get your A-levels? And what job do you want to go down? And trying to guide you where you wanted to go. And I'm like, it's all right, I'm playing rugby. I remember a few times and looking at me like, because I was only small as well, thinking, not a chance. You need to get some backup, get something planned. And I was like, oh, it's all right, I'm going to play rugby for Leeds. I'm going to play rugby all my life. And touch wood, there's a bit of wood down here. It paid off for me, but I wouldn't change a thing. Loved every moment of it. But I'm not saying now, I think kids should get some backup, should do some education, and make sure that they are set for life after rugby, because it happens in the blink of an eye, mate, doesn't it?
Plan A is always the best plan. Just go for it. But I've changed the language a little bit with some of our younger players about something to fall back on. I was talking about something to augment with, to go along with, and studies have shown players who take part in further education apprenticeships play for longer at a higher level and have a better career. You'll know yourself, sometimes you can become idolatrous to what goes on in the field. If that's the only plate that's spinning in life, when it falls over, and it does for everybody, injury, disappointment, adversity, it can have a big effect. Just looking at some of the faces on here, you've got Richie Mathers, you've got Johnny Epworth, you come into academy pictures there, and you've got likes like Chris Fletcher, Chev Walker, some good mates. Who are some of those notable teammates? Rob Burrow, I imagine, in time when you came through, that really influenced your development, and who you look back with a great deal of fondness?
Probably too many to name, but I think whether it was stroke of genius by the club and Gary were to really what's the word I'm looking for, use the academy. I remember Kev and probably you and Wardy playing and winning the academy, and there was almost like an expectation. You went into the academy and it was like, I can't let this down. And Dean Bell, actually, I only spent a bit of time with him, but he was actually a huge influence on me in a short period, and he probably don't actually know it. I don't think I've seen him since he was in charge of the youth here. And remember my first year in the academy, and I got a letter like an end of season sort of appraisal, and I've got to admit, like, it couldn't have been any more spot on. He gave me an appraisal, and it was about, like, you've got talent, but you're not prepared to work hard. You're not doing this, you're not doing that, and it was bang on. It couldn't have been any more right. I was at college so I was doing college and academy at the same time, and I probably wasn't giving the rugby as much attention as I should have done.
Right.
And it couldn't have been any more spot on, and like it actually threw me. It threw me, it rattled me. But it changed my mentality. I remember going back the next pre-season, I was like, I'm going to show you, don't you worry, I've got you here, I've got you. And from then on, and I had it on like a piece, it were a Rhinos like A4, and it were, I meant to get it laminated to keep it, because my granddad used to keep it, and every year he used to get it out, my granddad, and say, don't forget about this letter. And it were almost like a reminder to not put your queuing rack and know that you've been somewhere and you're not going back in that way you're taking anything for granted. And you know, at the academy at Leeds there were a lot of pressure. I speak to Scott Morrell, I'm coaching with Scott Morrell now, and he felt it coming in after us where you had to keep that mantle going. You had to, you know, there were almost that sense of professionalism from 16. There were that like expectation straight away, and as soon as we all then got into the first team, we've been doing it for 2-3 years anyway. So like sometimes now I see young kids coming into a first team environment and physically, mentally, they're probably not ready. They're probably not had. Whereas at that point we were ready. I feel like we were ready for anything. Our experiences, the way we'd been coached, the demands that were put on us was probably not much different to what you were doing full time as a first team player anyway. So it couldn't have been any more smoother, and I think that's, you know, the Rob, Chev, Richie Mathers, Calderwood, Bales, you know, the line of players that were coming through the system that had come through the academy were exceptional, like all international players as well. But then if they didn't make it at Leeds, they went on and had great careers elsewhere. You know, I'm playing hundreds of Super League games elsewhere. So at that point, like, I think Leeds, we were a breeding ground for all the other clubs as well.
Yeah, and you stayed a few of them who tried to chase you off as well, and you're right, it was a breeding ground for them to go off and forge great careers elsewhere. Just looking at Ryan Bailey, looking at like Wesley Snipes in Demolition Man, I think now.
Is that the bandana days? You have the bandana on that one.
Bandana one year, and then he had blonde hair another year, which was quite interesting. And it's funny, Gaz Morton, remember, I think when you started to make those progressions into the first team, he might have been somebody you was battling with as well. But that fortitude that was developed through hard work, almost finding your own pain. I remember down at Tetley Ground, you know, some of the stuff we did with Dean Bell, just got you prepared. Really fortunate as well back in those days. Quite often we were a precursor to the first team games, so you almost felt like you was going to play for academy. You had to win, otherwise it affected the whole day. You believe that's what you taught yourself. And then going out at Headingley as well, I don't know, about being 3,000 or 4,000 fans there by the time you finished, and you think you start to get used to it. It was awesome. Tell me about your debut. Making a debut and what that meant. Leeds lad coming through, love Leeds United, love Leeds Rhinos, RL Rhinos.
Do you know what? It might sound weird. I don't really remember a huge amount about my debut, which is a bit strange. But I do remember my first touch, I dropped it. So that maybe I've like got rid of it because it doesn't sort of hold great memories. But I remember Jamie Matthew were playing, and I thought, you know, I'll do a token support, go through with him, thinking he's going to carry it, he's bigger than me, he's going to recognise that I'm a skinny 17-year-old, he's not going to give me the ball in the middle. Anyway, I supported him and he gave me it, and I got crushed by, my first involvement, we're getting crushed by 3, losing ball, so, you know, that might not have been a bad thing, to be honest with you. But I came on for Yestin, so obviously huge boots to fill, you know, one of the best players that, you know, has probably ever laced the boots up at this club, and big expectations, but yeah, special because I think any time you do something first, it's always special. But playing it at home at Headingley, and you know, I get to come to the stadium now, and I come to my mate's box, Steve, and I watch the game, and there's a little bit of like, what's the word? A little bit of not disappointment, but not an opportunity to play in the stadium as it was now. Do you know what I mean? I feel like we helped create it with our success, and we didn't get the opportunity to kind of experience how good a stadium it is. But then I think back, and actually some of the memories from the old South Stand and that can't be replicated again, can it? The noise and the atmosphere and some of the nights that we had, we're really fortunate to, you know, be nice to be able to rewind time and have an old South Stand type of night, and where the crowd's on top of here, and one of them summer nights. But as a venue now, it's sensational. So but there's a tinge of disappointment that we didn't get to experience it in its full.
The nostalgia, mate, looking into that South Stand when you couldn't see anybody in it, it was that dark, but could hear it, feel it. You used to be a part of it as a 9-year-old kid, marching on together. I completely understand what you're feeling. Some of the seats from the old North Stand are in my garden now, so I sit on them and reminisce and just imagine some of those old days. You quickly became a young prodigy, made a debut in 2001, Great Britain 2004, but before then, I just want to bring you back to a game when we really understood who Danny McGuire was going to be. I remember being there, I wasn't playing, I wasn't inside at the time. 2003, it was quite adverse in the next game, but the semi-final, over at Huddersfield against St Helens, you pretty much got us to the final with 2 tries, which were amazing. Kev, being cool Kev, just knocked the balls over from the edge as well. What do you remember about that game, and how good did you feel when you finished?
I think that was kind of my statement game really, and where you go from being a young fringe player to, good thought actually.
Good in that.
One of my best ones, that. They pull some funny, weird faces when I was playing, to be honest. But yeah, I think that was kind of the game where I suppose you go from a young player with an element of potential into a player where people, kind of recognise you a bit more. And I remember Huddersfield. Like I always used to enjoy playing at Huddersfield, but sometimes you go Huddersfield away on a Friday night, and there were not many there, and really hard to create an atmosphere. You had to kind of create it from within. But I remember that day it were lively. It were an early spring. I think the Challenge Cup was earlier that year, at that time. So nice crisp spring sort of day, and I didn't come on till maybe 50-ish, something like that. Right. So I'd spent plenty of time up bench, plenty of time warming up, using tons of nervous energy, and just thought, whatever happens here, I'm just going to go on and try and make a difference. And I think that as a young player, sometimes that's how you're integrated into the team. You have to come off the bench, you have to earn your stripes. And mine were come on and try and make a difference, try and inject some energy into the game. And I remember it was just anticipating, being persistent with putting myself around the ball. And that's how I felt like I could influence the game. And luckily it fell for me that day, and really special to win a semi, but then obviously I had the disappointment a couple of weeks later and not getting picked in the final. But
tell me about that, because it's important. You talked before about adversity, that piece of paper that Dean Bell gave you, and you're going to laminate it because it was that powerful.
Yeah.
I remember I was there. I was about, I think it was me, Chris Feather weren't playing. We were just there to make up numbers in warm-up. Didn't know who was going to be on the bench. He was going to go with yourself or Rob Burrow. But I remember seeing your face when you come out and tell straight away it wasn't going to be you. What did that do in the trajectory of your development?
I think it was as powerful as the letter.
Yeah.
I think it was maybe just below the letter in terms of, again, how I reacted to it. I think obviously I was disappointed. I remember Pauli called me down, and like as a player you kind of get a gauge if you're on the fringes. And I know we're on the fringes, but I thought I'd definitely done enough. I scored two in the semi. We played Castaway and I scored a try and we won. And I thought, there's no way I'm not playing. Normally, when they call you, it's never good news, is it? When they call you into their office or need a chat, it's normally not good news. And but in the context of things, I really needed it. I'd not had many setbacks. I'd had the early part of the academy one, but other than that, my career had been really rosy. Everything had gone smoothly. I'd not had many setbacks, and I think again that were just another. I remember saying to myself that they'll never happen again. If we get to finals, this feeling or this, all my family had gone down for a week. They'd gone down on the Thursday for the game. On the Saturday they were staying, and I remember having to ring them up and tell them as they were on the way down as well. So it wasn't just my disappointment. It were, when things don't go well as a sports person, it's not just you're carrying everybody else's. Like my family were always big support, so you're carrying their disappointment as well. And And I just remember thinking to myself, this ain't happening again. If we get ourselves in a position, or I know we're going to be back in this situation, I ain't the fall guy next time. And but I think it was good. I think it gave me a bit of realisation, a bit of a kick up the backside, and I thought, right, time to go again. And I always used to try and use setbacks as or things that didn't go my way to try and, I suppose, remotivate it and go, right, I'll show you type of attitude.
And then trying for disaster. I remember your face when you come out. It was like the guy in Lock, Stock when he loses all that money and ringing and like, wow. then you were upset during warm-up.
Yeah.
Couldn't hold the tears back. And like, wow. But 12 months later, grand final, 2004.
Yep.
That's the next photograph here, mate. And this is an iconic one because we reflect on this now. And we say again, 20 years ago. The first one in our lifetime, by the way, championship win, and we're on the pitch playing.
Yeah.
You're scoring tries, getting man of match awards. When you reflect then on the disappointment of the Challenge Cup and look at that photograph, how does it make you feel? What's it like reflecting on those moments 20 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, like some of the best memories I've said already that year was, there's so many like moments and experiences that I'll live with me forever, and the part of me in my coaching, like some of the things that I reflect back on are them moments, and I think that's just a culmination of hard work in it. That last, I remember I got cramp as well at the back end of the game, and I remember I couldn't straighten my leg, and I'm trying to whop around to not let anybody down because it was tight. I think we were 2 scores in front, but the desire and the commitment that we had as a team not to let each other down, you kind of do anything. So. That personally, that moment for me is really special, and running off to the sideline and everybody jumping on top of me. I think for me that's probably one of my more special moments. But it wasn't just for. I always felt it wasn't just for us as a group. Although you try and keep it, in the bubble. It's about us as a team. We're not worried about too much outside influence. But I remember people when we lost to Bradford saying, "Oh, they're going to choke. They can't do it. Leeds haven't won a title for this long." So I think it were more of a victory for everybody, for not just us. It were kind of a victory for Leeds in general, really. A victory to say, right, we can do it, and we're going to build on this, and we're going to keep striving for more type of thing.
10 years after that one in 2004, and we're celebrating the 10-year anniversary this year of the Challenge Cup. That was the one that always eluded us, wasn't it? And that was the first time we won it as a group. And that was a day, actually, when we think about the partnership between yourself and Ryan Hall. I think you put some wonderful kicks over that left edge. Kurt Dixon, he was just terrorised all game. Felt sorry for him, great lad. But you were at your best. All was at his best. I remember Rob having some really nice moments. Kicked a drop goal as well at the back end, so could relax a little bit. What did it feel like when it went over and finally this hoodoo looked to have been disappearing?
I just think relief. I remember that I had a love-hate relationship with the Challenge Cup. I used to loved the history and prestige of it, and remember watching it as a kid and like Ray French commentating, just everything that came with that. Like, I don't know, always seemed special, and then playing in it, I just got frustrated with it. Like semi-final, we had so many good moments in semi-finals, and then we get to the final and it were like not again. So I can't really remember like how we approached it that year, but I don't know if we kind of took a little bit of pressure off ourselves, or and I can't even, to be honest with you, I can't really remember the build up to it, who we beat and stuff. And but I just remember nailing that game plan that day. I remember we had a plan to kick in between Dixon and Dawn, and whoever got it, they were having it. That was kind of the plan. I remember Brian Mack, and I remember Luke Dawn, who were a great player, and he was probably one of Cassie's more dangerous players. I thought as soon as we get in, like everyone, and I remember like it was one of the first kick returns, and I think about 6 of us like piled on him, and I was like elbowing him, and I felt bad afterwards, but I thought trying to like basically put him off his game a little bit, and we just nailed our game plan and took our opportunities really. And I think Wembley, everything that comes with playing at Wembley as well, it's special, and losing in the finals, terrible in it. You sit in the change rooms after, you don't know where to turn. You've got to go back to the hotel, all the sponsors and all the families there, and it's really difficult to take. And I think then again, we probably used, when we lost finals previously, we'd almost use that as motivation to then go on and win grand finals. So I was thinking, how's this going to play out? And I think 2014 we invested that much into that game, and you know, we fell off a cliff at the end of the season, didn't we? I don't think it were like we'd almost thrown all our eggs in that basket, and finally achieved it. And it's special, isn't it? It's like, just to say that you've got grand finals and the Challenge Cup, it just makes things sound and taste a lot better.
You're right, we didn't win a single game for the rest of the year. It killed us.
Yeah.
And I think we were used to, I mean, bearing in mind, 2007, 8, 9, you've won it at Norfolk grand final. 10, 11, 12, 3 that we'd obviously lost. But we'd won grand finals in there as well.
Yeah.
So it's almost like the last game of the season, bags are down, crack on. But when we won that, I don't think we understood how to deal with it.
No.
Just the embrace there. I mean, just dawned on me, it's the first time Kev's ever lifted the Challenge Cup. And he always had a routine, everything was routine with Kev. So when he used to win grand final, he'd check it 3 times in each direction. And it just made me smile here when he's sort of giving you a kiss and being interrupted. What do you remember about this moment and just going up and getting the trophy?
I remember the walk up. That was good, and I don't even know why I've embraced him, to be honest with you. I don't know why he's given me a kiss, but I think in them situations when you've invested that much and you get your rewards for it, you're a bit, you probably act different than you normally would. You're not, you know. That's probably the only time Kev's ever given me a kiss, to be honest with you. There'll be a few people like to be in my position, without a doubt, but yeah, I think it just felt right. With that bit of relief, and yeah, we just it's a really good photo actually.
It's a great
There's some different emotions on there, and Rob with his arms up, and Abo looking not interested like Abo always does.
Abo was,
just typical Carl.
He hadn't spoke since then.
Yeah.
Won't talk to us, but just it was worth a try every grand final, wasn't it?
It was.
To work his way through the back line there. You got JP, Rob. What a picture. To be signed by Danny McGuire, and somebody out there can acquire this photograph. Mate, just moving on, I've got a little bit, so I want to touch on some of the coaching as well. 2017, what an interesting year, because when you talk about people trying to guess what was going to happen when Kev, JP and Kyler left after that treble, we went to Cass, and I don't know if you still talk about this now, lost 66-10. I remember, I'm right in saying Brian Matt says they could win a comp this lot, and he was like, what planet is he on? Went on and did it, and this was the last game for Leeds.
Yeah.
Just tell us about 2017, because some would say because of the adversity and what we've been through, bearing in mind Kirksall training ground got decimated the year before, we're fighting sort of relegation after the treble winning year. So swing it back round again and get his hands on the trophy one more time must have been pretty special.
Hold your nerve.
Hold your nerve.
That's what, honestly, I use it, and like some of the stuff that Brian Mack did with us, sometimes I'd be a bit like, I'm not right sure here, but I'd go with it just because I felt like that's what needed to be done. Everyone, you know, sometimes you give a plan or you give somebody something to do, and it might not be actually what you want to do, or you might not think it's right for me, but you do it for the good of the team. And Mac had come up with some things that I'd be a bit like, not sure, but I'm just going to go do it best I can anyway for the team. And then he come up with some stuff, and I go, that's genius. And he always used to say, hold your nerve, Squire. And like I use it, you find like, you know, people who have influenced you, coaches who have influenced you, and Mac did some unbelievable stuff. And I had a tough year with Brian that year. I had a really tough year with him, a captain, some tough conversations, and probably left our relationship not in a great place that year. But some of the stuff he did, he was unbelievable at taking the pressure off his players as well.
Yeah.
I remember he'd go into press conferences, and he was always under pressure as Leeds coach. You're always under pressure as a player and as a coach at Leeds. You've got to get used to that. If you can't handle pressure, then you can't play or coach at Leeds. It's simple as that. And but I remember Brian would absorb pressure all the time. I don't know how he did it, whether he did it purposely or not, but he was a genius with it, and he'd always talk about keeping it in the bubble. Don't worry about what people are doing outside, what they're saying. I believe in yous. And when he said that after we got beat by Cass, I think everyone thought he'd lost plot, didn't they? I mean, Cass were unbelievable that year, but he believed it, and he kept us believing within the group, and we were second best team all year, without a doubt. But I think he believed if we got to the final, we'd find a way.
Yeah.
We'd always find a way, and you know, they had a little bit of disruption in the lead up to the final at Cast. They lost one of their more influential players, and sport's about that sometimes, isn't it? You lose people, and other teams got to take advantage of it, and
Amen, yeah, for sure.
And we did that, and yeah, I had a tough year really as well, because obviously I always thought I'd play at Leeds, never thought about going anywhere else. I thought I'd be at Leeds till I were 80.
Yeah.
And then to get told that I'm not wanted or not going to be part of the plans going forward, again, that were another moment of I'll show you type of. And I had some tough conversations, got a brilliant relationship with Gary. And I remember having tough conversations with Gary where he found it hard to sort of tell me where the club were going and what they were thinking of. And then obviously I decided I'd sign for OKR, but I knew I wanted to go out with a bang. I knew I still had a lot to give. And again, that probably my way of, in a nice way, saying I don't want to say the word that I probably were using, but I'll show you type of attitude. I'll show you that I've still got plenty to give. And obviously we went on and won the final. So
it was a special year. I learnt a lot from it, and it was tough as well, seeing you go. And it was obviously Rob's last year playing. Just wanted to reflect on what you said about Brian Mack. A lot of people forget that he was here in 2004-5 as well, I think, as an assistant to Tony Smith. Now, you obviously went to OKR, spent a little bit more time with Tony Smith all those years after winning the grand final in 2004. And you mentioned how he invested this pedagogy, this ability to coach young people. What was it like the second time round, and what was it like to work with as a coach as well, side by side?
It was interesting. It was different. Yeah, and I suppose over time, he'd obviously got a bit older. He was less sort of hands-on. Like I remember some of our videos in 2004, Jonesy, and you'd think you were out of the screen, not like you'd know that you weren't doing what you were supposed to be doing. You think he's not going to see this, and he'd see it, wouldn't he? You couldn't, honestly. You'd go into videos and you were that nervous that something were going to get spotted, and if he missed it, you were like, thank God. But he very, very rarely missed it. And and then he obviously had gone to Warrington, had some success at Warrington, and he actually coached me again. So after my last year at KR, Tony came in and coached for the last 6 months. I remember ringing him up and asking him if he wanted to get back into coaching. So I'm probably guilty of putting him through some of the pain that he's going through now at Hull FC as well. So sorry, Tony. But yeah, it's different. I think you evolve as a coach. Tony were really hands-on with us. Really hands-on, and then obviously as he got more experienced and over time, his coaches took more control. It was brilliant for me as an assistant. First year under Tony, I absolutely loved it. I had freedom to coach and express myself as a coach, and would question what you were doing and what you were trying to achieve, and so much learning in that first year as an assistant with Tony. I absolutely loved it. But he was very different to what I'd experienced as a player. But I think you evolve like you do as a player. You evolve, your game changes, and your coaching styles change as well. And
sometimes you get thrown at deep end. He leaves, you end up as head coach for a period of time.
Yeah.
Which I imagine, being an interim, can be the most terrifying and exhilarating time of your life for different reasons. But when you get stretched out of your comfort zone, I think that's when you learn and grow the most. What was that period like? Because you did a very good job.
Loved it. Yeah, and I enjoyed it, but I think it gave me it rubber stamped to me as well that I needed more experience, that I weren't quite ready. There were a few areas that I thought, right, I'm going to need a bit more there. So it made me sort of evaluate and kind of knew where I was, if that makes sense. And I enjoyed it. It was tough because we had a lot of injuries, and at the back end we were patching players together. And I think my last game as interim, we went to Hull FC and put, with 16 players. Bit of reverse psychology there. We could have had a 17th, but I thought, you know what, we're going to go with 16 here, and,
I love it.
And we're going to, have a bit of a cause here. We've only got 16. We're going to go there and do a job. So a bit of psychology. I enjoyed it, but it gave me a realisation that I had to still do the hard yards. I had to still get some more experience. I had to make some more mistakes, do some more learning. And when I do get an opportunity, I want to be in a position where there's no excuses. So in year, 2 years, 3 years time, hopefully if I do get an opportunity somewhere, I'm in a position where I know I've done the hard yards.
Will you know when that is?
I think so.
Right.
I feel so. I always had, like in my head, I'd said to myself, look, I want to do sort of 4 or 5 years of coaching experience before I take an opportunity, and I think this will be my 4th year as an assistant now.
Right.
So the time frame and the expectations I've put on myself is kind of playing out, and I think it's the right way. You know, I think coaching can be ruthless at times, Kai. If you take an opportunity and you're not quite ready and you don't quite do the job justice, then you're gone, and it's then so hard to get back into it. And
I will say some people think that there's a progression, a ladder where you go assistant and head coach, but some people are content with being an assistant career coach forever. Is that where are you at? Are you want to be an head coach?
Do you know what? I against that neither. Right. I enjoy being on the field with the players. I enjoy working with the players day to day on skill, tactical side of things, the understanding of things. That's where I get my biggest kicks, is sometimes actually going in the middle of training and demonstrating and being part of training. Still love doing that. Not so much, what I learned in that little short time of being head coach is so many things going on off the field that you've got to deal with, and obviously you'll know from your time doing it as well. It's not just, right, I'm going to go coach these boys for 2 hours, we're going to do the video, we're going to do the prep. There's so many other things, so many other branches sprouting off for a head coach. And at times I were a bit like, I'm not sure if that's where I want to go or what I want to do, but that little bit of time showed me that I can do it, but I just want to be in a stronger position when it does come around, if that makes sense.
Being a life manager, that's the domestic version of being a coach. The other version of being a coach is the international coach. You get very little hands-on. I'm just looking at a photograph here, final photograph magazine, 2004, Great Britain side. Interesting, Great Britain, a great honour. I mean, I've played a couple of games for Great Britain. In fact, I played in last game Great Britain won, 2007. But how do you reflect on your international career? Because you would have played in World Cup for England, obviously Tony Smith. But after that, I don't think there was any games post there, which for somebody, a player of your calibre, and I'll reflect on Rob Burrow as well, and there was a few notable players during that period, that golden decade. There weren't many sort of Man of Steel awards, and when you reflect back, some of the external recognition and accolades weren't always there. How do you reflect on your international career?
It's a good question. There's a tinge of disappointment.
Right.
That I don't feel like I did myself justice when I played, and probably a combination of things. Like first year I was involved in 2004, that picture there, I loved it. Brian Noble was coach, I was young, I still had bags of energy, I was still and we had some great, some of the players at that squad's epic. There's Scully on there, Andy Farrell, Sean Long, JP, Stuart Fielden. There's some unbelievable players on that.
Yeah,
Radlinski,
Wellens.
Radlinski, Wellens, sensational players. And I remember just soaking it all up and taking it for what it was and not thinking too deep about it. And my first game against Australia at Wigan, we beat Australia. My first 2 games against New Zealand, we beat New Zealand. I'm thinking, this is easy. This is easy. We've got this made. We got to the final at Tri Nations. I played really well against Australia, and Brian Noble put me back to the bench. And I remember thinking, it's a bit weird, but I'm young. I'll just whatever it takes. I'm happy to play a different role this game. And I remember coming on and we were 24-0 down at Ellen Road in the final, thinking what we're going to do from here. And it's weird. I've got some really good memories about playing for. It's the ultimate accolade, and it is the ultimate accolade, and it should, for me, it should be right at the top of the tree. But I don't like to say it, but I had some not so good experiences as well, where got to the end of the season and you've played a long season, and I know I wasn't the only one, but you'd be thinking about, right, where am I going on holiday, and when I can't wait to have some time off, and you'd be carrying a few niggles, and I don't know, and then the dynamics of the squad at the time weren't good, and you know, we had 10 in from Leeds in that World Cup and 9 in from St Helens, and we've been bashing each other all year, and we were never going to come together as a team, no matter how hard we tried. But I think the dynamics of, you know, I've got to give Steve McNamara a bit of praise as well. I think he brought it together as more of a team type of environment and a club environment, and where I never felt like it with that. I just felt like you come together, do your best, and everyone go their separate ways again. And Steve McNamara came in, and I remember him. I was, you know, Kev and Rangi Chase played in 2009, and my time before that had been, if we'd lost, it was halfbacks' fault. Let's change halfbacks. Sean Long would go out, somebody else would come in, I'd go in, Richard Horne would go out, Rob would come in, Leon Price would go out, and they were always looking for these different formulas. And I remember Steve McNamara, I didn't get picked, and he's like, look, I'm sticking with the halves, I'm going to give him a full series to gel, and they ended up getting to the final and nearly beating Australia. And afterwards, although it affected me because I didn't play, I thought, you know what, he's done right by them. He's given them an opportunity to develop and grow their partnership over, which I felt like I never had. I never had a coach saying, right, you're going to play this full series, and you might take a game or two to get going. This is the partnership I'm going with. I'm going to stick with it. But I never felt that. It would always chop and change, and I think there's always a bit of frustration and a bit of like, I wish I'd have had a, you know, and I've got to admit, I probably didn't do, when I did get my opportunities, I probably didn't do it justice as well. So I've got to take a bit of ownership on that as well.
In terms of leadership, last little bit here, Mags, where do you take most of your inspiration from? What's important to you in terms of values around being a great leader and a manager?
I just feel like I always revert back to like experiences that I've had.
Yeah.
And like, not so much, I suppose, people, or it's more moments for me.
Okay.
It's more like moments that I reflect on, or, you know, something that's similar to something I've experienced as a player. And I feel like my values and standards and the stuff that we embedded at Leeds from a young age, that's always going to be in me, and I'm still living by some of the things that we were taught as academy. And you know, it's just good habits, being on time, you know, training hard. You know, it's not, I don't think it's rocket science, our game. It's a pretty simple game, innit? You know, you got to be tough, you got to be hardworking, and you got to compete to win. And I suppose we had a lot of players throughout the years that had all them traits, or a lot of them traits, and that's why we were successful. So in my coaching now, you know, the more players you can have in your team with them traits, the more chance you've got of being successful. And if you can help influence them and provide players with a good environment where they can grow, then I don't see any reason why, like, I can't do a decent job at coaching as well. But we'll see. Time will tell, I suppose. Well,
time will tell, and that's my last question. You're on this journey now. 23 years after making your debut as a player, the game's changed, moved on.
Yeah.
It's a different game to what we played back then. In many ways, I think really positive as well. I'm a real hope-timist, for want of a better word. How excited are you about being involved? It's still in the game at this coaching level, and what that might look like for you in a progression, a journey, a life's journey, next 10, 15 years, maybe? I'm with you.
I'm sick of hearing people moan about the game, and I feel like we've got an unbelievable product, and I feel like we've got some players that I think it was Eddie Hearn saying we haven't got any superstars, and I feel like we need to do a bit more. Your Mikey Lewis's, your George Williams. I think we can. I think Rhinos have got probably the best socials, and the way that they promote stuff is outstanding. But I think as a game as a whole, we can be better with that. But like I think we've got a good product, and we've got to back it. We've got to believe that we can grow now with all the stuff that's happening with the licensing and the IMG, and it's never going to be picture perfect. There's always going to be things we can get better, like there is in any sport and any environment, any business you're in. There's always ways to get better and improve, but hopefully it's the start of something good, and I'd like to be part of it going forward in my coaching development and my coaching journey now. And
That's been amazing. I think Danny McGuire there just articulates exceptionally well the journey about learning from each other, the influence that we've had over the years, the memories that some of these photographs bring back. Mate, you'll be a lifelong friend, and the influence you've had on me lives with me every day. I always talk about that. There's a chance for you to win these photographs. Just check on online and click the link below. Magsy, you're going to sign these for us, and somebody out there will be the proud owner of some exceptional memorabilia. Thank you, Danny McGuire.
Cheers, mate.
And thank you for joining us in Box 2. Can't wait to see you next time.